أُولَئِكَ الَّذِينَ هَدَى اللَّهُ. Those are the ones whom Allah has guided. Who does أُولَئِكَ refer to? The prophets who have been mentioned above. All of these prophets, 18 of them who are mentioned over here, الَّذِينَ هَدَى اللَّهُ, those whom Allah has guided. And because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided them, فَبِهُدَاهُمْ, meaning because of their being on guidance, إِقْتَدِهْ, you follow them. You take them as your guides. You emulate them. إِقْتَدِهْ. The word إِقْتَدِهْ, let's break it down first. إِقْتَد is one word, and the ha at the end is what? It's a pronoun. It's a dhamir. And the ha over here refers to the huda, the guidance. So follow that guidance, because they have been given guidance. So follow their way, emulate their way, because their way is of huda, their way is of guidance, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guided them. The word iqtadi is from the root letters qaf, dal, waw. Qaf, dal, waw. And the word qadwun, or qadawa, literally means to be tasty. What does it mean? To be tasty. When something is agreeable, when something is palatable in taste, and it's also good in its smell, it's also fragrant. This is what qadawa is. Food is generally tasty. When? When is it tasty? When do you find it good? When all the flavors, they're blended in really well. Isn't it? Like for example, if you're having a particular food and all you can taste is just ketchup. It overwhelms everything else, every other flavor. Sometimes the spice, it overwhelms everything. Sometimes the salt, it overwhelms everything. And especially some foods, if you don't cook them properly, then what happens is that the spices, you can taste them separately. They're not blended in the food. They're not blended in the food. So good food is that in which all the flavors are blended in together. That the taste and the smell, the fragrance, they follow each other. They're blended in together, they follow each other. It's not like the spice is too much, the salt is too much. It's well balanced. This is what good food is. From this, the word iqtida is to follow someone. What does iqtida mean? To follow someone. It is to do something in line with another's action. That whatever the other person is doing, you're following them. Exactly what they're doing, you're imitating them. You're emulating them. This is what iqtida is. And in particular, this word is used for following someone in religion, in deen. To emulate someone in religion. That whatever they're doing in their religion, you do the same thing as well. On the same note, the word muqtadi. Who is a muqtadi? The one who is following the imam in what? In salah. Haven't you heard of the word muqtadi? Inshallah, you will soon learn in your kitab al-salah. So, iqtida is to follow someone how? That you're emulating, you're imitating everything that they're doing. Exactly how they're doing. Your actions are in line with their actions. Your actions don't contradict their actions. Your beliefs don't contradict their beliefs. Your behavior does not contradict their behavior. You understand? Your akhlaq does not contradict their akhlaq. Your sabr does not contradict their sabr. Rather, all of your actions and their actions are in conformity. They're conforming with one another. They're in line with one another. Just as a person who is following the imam in salah. What does it mean? That when the imam is going to go down in ruku', the muqtadi is going to follow. It's not that he will say, I haven't completed my surah, so I'm going to finish it first and then I'm going to follow. No. Your actions are in line with the actions of who? The leader, the one whom you're following. So over here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, فَبِهُدَاهُ مُقْتَدِهِ. So, because they were on guidance, therefore you follow them as well. Now does it mean that we have to follow all of the prophets in everything? Does it mean that? No. What this means is that follow them in akhlaq, in sabr, in aqidah. Because the prophets, they were given some teachings that were common to all prophets. Some teachings were common in all of the prophets. For example, the usul of the deen, the basic principles of the deen. The basic principles of the deen, they have always been the same, from Adam a.s. to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For instance, belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, worshipping Him alone, belief in the Day of Judgment, preparing for the Day of Judgment. All of this is what? Basic principles of the deen that were common from Adam a.s. to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Akhlaq, good manners, good behavior towards other people, towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, refraining from zulm, refraining from injustice, doing ihsan. These are what? Basic principles that were common. Then there were some other teachings that were specific. That were specific, meaning that were given specifically to a particular prophet. Like, for example, we as a Muslim ummah, we have been given the specific teaching of what? That every day, 5 times a day, at particular times, we have to perform salah. Now, in the previous nations, perhaps prayer was mandatory, but perhaps the method or the time was different. It's possible. So, over here when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, iqtadi, follow their guidance, which guidance does it refer to? That which was common amongst all the prophets. And what is that? Akhlaq, sabr, aqidah. So follow them in their belief that just as they upheld Tawheed, similarly you also uphold Tawheed. Just as they had sabr, just as they were patient, similarly you also have patience. Just as they had good akhlaq, similarly you also have good akhlaq. فَبِهُدَاهُ مُقْتَدِي. قُلْ, say, لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا. I do not ask you for it any reward. Meaning, O Prophet ﷺ, say this to the people of Mecca, that when I am delivering the message of Allah to you, when I am upholding Tawheed, I am not expecting any kind of return from you. لَا أَسْأَلُكُمْ عَلَيْهِ أَجْرًا. I'm not asking from you for this work of delivering the message to you any kind of recompense, because ajr comes from who? From Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And people, they cannot give you ajr. In huwa illa, this is not except dhikra lil alameen, a reminder for the people of the world. So what do we learn from this ayah? First of all, we learn that a person should follow who? Who should a person follow? The prophets, but what does it mean? Those who are guided. Those who are upon guidance. Those who are upon hidayah. That is one whom a person should follow. A person can learn from many people. Even if there's a person who is not a Muslim, you can still learn something from them. You go to university, you're a math professor, he's not a Muslim, doesn't mean you're not going to learn. You are. But whose way are you going to emulate? The way of those people who are guided. So this means that if there is a person who is talking in a particular way, who is using some words, and they don't suit a person who is rightly guided, are you going to follow their way? No. Are you going to follow their way of talking? Are you going to emulate their way of speaking? No. Are you going to emulate their way of eating? No. Whose way are you going to follow? The person who is rightly guided. You can learn from many people, but who are you going to follow in practice, in amal? The one who is rightly guided. Secondly, we also learn from this ayah that a person who is conveying the message of Allah, he must not look at people with greed. He should not look at people with greed. Thinking, okay, what benefit can I get from them? If I tell them about Islam, they become a Muslim. Or if I teach them something and they become my student, they start learning from me. What benefit can I gain from them? No, a person should not think like this. Because la as'alukum alayhi ajran. Notice the word ajran, it ends with tanween. What does that mean? Any kind of reward, big or small, material or non-material. I don't want any benefit from you. Because who is the one who is going to reward me? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when a person conveys in this way, that he does not look at the wealth of other people, he does not look at the status of other people, he does not look at what benefit he can gain from them, then he has ikhlas. then he has sincerity. And if a person is not sincere, then there will be no barakah. There will be no blessing. If a person is sincere, he's doing it only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then he will see the blessing that is bestowed, that is granted in the work that he's doing. Recitation.
أولئك الذين هدى الله فبهداه مقتده قل لا أسألكم عليه أجرا إن هو إلا ذكرى للعالمين.
وما قدر الله حق قدره. And they did not appraise Allah with true appraisal. ما قدروا. That instead of believing in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, instead of submitting to Him, instead of worshipping Him alone, what does Allah say? They have not appraised Him as is the right of appraising Him. The word qadaru is from the root letters qaf, dal, ra. Qaf, dal, ra. And qadr is to appraise, it is to assess, it is to know the value of something. What does it mean? To assess, to appraise the value of something, the quality of something, the quantity of something, the characteristics of something. This is what qadr is. And when can you assess the true value of something? When can you do that? When you study it, when you have knowledge of it, not just from one aspect, but from different aspects. When you get to know something from different aspects, then you can assess its true value. Assessing the value of something based on knowledge of that thing from different aspects. Like for example, there is a particular piece of jewelry. You see it, you're like, oh yes, it's golden, beautiful. That's it. Or some people, they will say, they're like, I don't like gold jewelry. There are people who don't like it. Like, it's too much. It's too yellow. Or maybe a person might say, it seems to be very old-fashioned. The design is too ancient. But you don't know its value because you don't know it from different aspects. You don't have knowledge about it. But if you take it to a person who is a jeweler, who is a goldsmith, he, by looking at it even, he will tell you its true value. That because this is an ancient piece, because it's these many years old, and because it's still in a good condition, because it has this particular gem, because it's cut in this particular way, because it's this size, because it's this weight, therefore this is the value. And for you, it's just a piece of jewelry. And if you look at it, some gold jewelry, it's real, and other, it's not real. It's not actual gold. For you, both of them might appear to be beautiful. And for you, it's possible that you like the fake one much more because of its design, because of its appearance. But a person who knows the true value of gold, he will be able to value it. So when you know about something, when you know about the importance of something, then you can really value it. Like for example, it's possible that in a house everybody has their own computer, and each person who owns that computer knows its value. But for other people, it's just junk. Like, get rid of it. Can't you just share one computer? Like, what's the big deal? Why do you have to have your own individual machines in every room? But people who own it, people who use it, they know its value. So, qadr, to assess the value of something, to know the value of something, and this is based on knowledge and understanding. That once you know it, once you understand it, then you will know the true value of something. So over here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا قَدَرُوا. They have not estimated. They have not assessed. Who does they refer to? People in general. Some have said it refers to the mushrikeen. Others have said it refers to Yahud. Yes, it refers to them. However, it's not just mushrikeen. It's not just Yahud. In general, most people, not every single person, but most people, they have not appraised Allah حَقَّ قَدْرِهِ with true appraisal. Meaning, they have not recognized Him as is the right of recognizing Him. They have not given him the value that he deserves. They have not valued him as he should be valued. They have not respected him as he should be respected. They don't know him as he should be known. وَمَا قَدَرُ اللَّهَ حَقَّ قَدْرِهِ. They don't realize his greatness. They have not realized his greatness. Especially إِذْ قَالُوا, when they said the statement. Meaning when people make the statement, which is mentioned in the ayah, they don't realize the greatness of Allah. They don't respect him as they should respect him. They don't know him as he should be known. إِذْ قَالُوا, when they have said, مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَى بَشَرٍ مِّن شَيْءٍ. That when they said that Allah has not sent down upon any human anything at all. مَا أَنزَلَ. Now the way the sentence is worded, مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ, meaning never has Allah sent down. This expresses mubalagha in their negating the fact that Allah ever revealed anything. So when they're saying statements such as, Allah has never revealed anything upon any human being ever, there has been no revelation that has come from God to human beings, they're not valuing Allah as He should be valued. Why? What's the connection between these two? Because when a person realizes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the Hadi, that He is the Mudabbir, that He is Ar-Rahman, then he will know for sure that if Allah created a human being and provided him with his food, then definitely He must have provided the human being with spiritual nourishment as well. If everything knows its purpose, then how is it possible that a human being does not know his purpose, does not know his objective? How is it possible? So when they say such statements that Allah never sent down any revelation, they don't recognize Allah. They're not valuing Allah. إِذْ قَالُوا مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ عَلَى بَشَرٍ مِّن شَيْءٍ. قُلْ, say, meaning say to these people who deny the concept of revelation from Allah, that مَنْ أَنزَلَ الْكِتَابَ, who sent down the kitab? Which kitab? الَّذِي جَاءَ بِهِ مُوسَى, which Musa alayhi salam brought. Which book was that? The Torah. So who sent down that book, which Musa alayhi salam brought? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent it down. So how come you believe in that book and you deny the book that has been given to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam? And you talk about that being from God, and you don't talk about this book being from God. And this book that was given to Musa alayhi salam, meaning the Torah, it was a nur, it was a light, wahudan, and a guidance, linnas, for all people. تَجْعَلُونَهُ. But what is your behavior towards the book? That you're making it قَرَاطِيسَ, pages, loose sheets, parchment. That's what you've made the book into. Musa a.s. was given a whole book, a complete book. And what did you do to the book? تَجْعَلُونَهُ قَرَاطِيسَ. The word قَرَاطِيس is a plural of قِرْطَاس. Remember the word قِرْطَاس? That if we sent down a qirtas from the sky and they touched it with their hand. So what is a qirtas? Paper, parchment. It's basically used for loose sheets on which a person writes. On which one writes. So you have made the book into qaratis, meaning into separate sheets, fragments of notes. That the book is not collected, the book is not put together, but rather it has been divided into, you can say, booklets. Do you understand? It's been divided into booklets. Let us imagine, if there is a book, it's not kept together. One chapter is found separately, another chapter is found separately. You know how sometimes if there is a book that's very big and you have multiple volumes, and you don't know where the first volume is, and you start reading from the second volume, will you understand everything? No. Will you get everything? No. And let's say if one volume is missing from the middle, even if one page is missing, then how do you feel? That you don't know the whole story. There's something missing. This is what they did to the Torah. That they divided it into fragments, into separate sheets. Why? تُبْدُونَهَا, you reveal it, وَتُخْفُونَ كَثِيرًا, and you hide a lot of it. That when they divided the book into booklets, what happened? They were able to show some of it to the people, and they were able to hide parts of it from the people as well. So for example, it's like a person giving only Surah Al-Fatiha and Surah Al-Baqarah to a person, or this is the entire Quran. Or look what the Quran says. And there are some surahs which are a major part of the Quran. Obviously, they're part of the Quran and they're hidden away completely. Completely hidden. Will a person know the entire Islam? Or the entire book? No. So تُبْدُونَهَا, you reveal part of it. وَتُخْفُونَ كَثِيرًا, and you're hiding much of it. How? By dividing it into separate books. And this way, the people of the book managed to conceal the news of the Prophet ﷺ, the signs of the Prophet ﷺ. وَتُخْفُونَ كَثِيرًا وَعُلِّمْتُمْ, and you were taught. Meaning, in the Quran, you have been taught مَا لَمْ تَعْلَمُوا, you had no idea about, you did not have any knowledge of. Antum, you, وَلَا آبَاؤُكُمْ, nor your forefathers. Meaning, through the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught you such things that you had no idea about. And your fathers, your parents even, had no knowledge about. It's a blessing of Allah that this Quran has come to you and you have been given the knowledge of the Quran. قُلِ اللَّهِ, say Allah. What does it mean by this? قُلِ اللَّهِ. This is the answer to the question. Which question? In the same ayah, there was a question that was asked. Man anzala, which kitab? Alladhi ja'a bihi Musa. So now the answer has come. Qulillah, say Allah. Meaning, if they don't say anything, tell them Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who sent down the book. And then summa darhum, then leave them fi khawdihim, in their engrossment, in their batil khawd, yal'abun, they play. Meaning, let them be. Don't bother to deal with them anymore. You've given them the warning. They accept, good for them. If they don't, just leave them. What do we learn from this ayah? First of all, we learn from this ayah about the obligation of learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. About knowing Allah. About having the ma'rifah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What do we learn from the Quran? That fa'lam annahu la ilaha illahu. Know, learn that there is no other God besides Him. So, one of the most important things in a believer's life is learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, knowing Him, does not just mean that a person believes, yes, Allah is one and He's our creator and He's the master, He owns everything. That's not enough. Because this knowledge alone does not necessarily change a person's behavior. Isn't it? You ask any Muslim, he knows that Allah is the creator, He is the master, and He is the one whom we're supposed to worship. And that's it. But still we see the same people, they're not praying. When it comes to give sadaqah, they don't give sadaqah. When it comes to saying the salam, they don't bother to say salam. When it comes to refraining from something that is haram, they don't refrain from it. Is it that they don't know who Allah is? They know. So knowing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not just mean knowing who He is. Meaning, He is God, He is creator, He is master. But knowing Him means understanding Him. Knowing Him means having His recognition. Knowing Him means that a person knows His names and attributes. He realizes the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because remember, qadr is to assess the value of something based on knowledge. So if knowledge does not take a person to valuing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that knowledge is not enough. He needs to learn more about Allah. And how do you learn about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? By learning His book. By learning what He has said. For instance, if people are writing a biography about someone, then what do? They read their books, they read their lectures, they listen to their lectures, they read about what they have done, where they were born, everything. And when they study their entire life, what they have said, what they wrote, where they studied, then they get an understanding of who they are. Isn't it so? But why is it that when it comes to learning about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we think it's sufficient to teach our children that Allah is your Rabb, He is your Khaliq, He is your Malik, and that's it? If you want to know about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, know what He has said. Learn about what He has said. Learn about His names and attributes. And then you will get the ma'rifah of Allah. And we also learn from this ayah that there are many people who don't value Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who don't even have the ma'rifah of Allah, who don't have the ma'rifah of Allah. And because of that reason, the actions don't change. That when a person wants to pray, he prays. When he doesn't want to pray, he doesn't pray. Then what is he in fact doing? He's actually following his desires. He hasn't really recognized Allah. Because if he truly recognized Allah, then he would wish to pray more. He would long to pray more. He would have khushu' in his salah. He would enjoy the salah. Because salah does not remain a chore. It's meeting Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We also learn from this ayah that denying the messenger or denying the wahi, denying the revelation, is also part of not recognizing the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because if a person says Allah never sent down any revelation, what is he denying? What is he saying? That Allah is not merciful. Allah is not aware. Allah does not know. Then what does it mean? That a person has not truly valued Allah. He has not truly known about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then we also learn from this ayat about the abomination or how bad it is to divide the scripture into qaratis. And yes, the people of the book, they did that. But even today, many Muslims, they suffer from this problem. That we have divided the Quran into qaratis. All we know of the Quran is just Surah Yasin. That's it. Do you read Quran? Yes, I read Surah Yasin. What about the rest of the Quran? Similarly, some of us, our focus is only on the 30 juz. In our salah, we only read the 30 juz. When we want to recite the Quran, we only read the 30 juz. But the Quran is not just the 30 juz. The Quran is not just Surah Yasin. The entire Quran. All 114 chapters. So yes, the people of the book, they're being reprimanded for having divided the book into qaratis. But what about us? What is our behavior towards the book of Allah? Have we divided the book into portions as well? And we take whatever portion we like and we leave whatever portion we don't like? So part of the book is being revealed and a lot of the book is being hidden in this process. Even today, it's not just the Quran, but even with the Bible, that they have made different versions, for instance, for the students or for the beginners. And when they start reading, they don't know there was something else in this paragraph as well, in this passage as well, in this chapter as well, or in this particular section as well. They don't know. And only when they get to the final read, then they know. So similarly with us also, we have done this, that we focus only on parts of the Quran and we ignore the rest of the Quran. Sometimes, even when it comes to amal, when it comes to action, we will select some ayat, we will follow them, but other ayat, we will completely ignore them. It's as if they don't exist in the Quran. It's as if they're not there. We're only following those ayat which conform to our desires, and the other ayat, we ignore them. It's as if they're not there in the Quran. Similarly, there are people who have studied a lot about the deen. Perhaps they have degrees in Islamic studies, but when it comes to reading the Quran, they haven't studied the whole Quran, cover to cover. They haven't. They have a degree, but they haven't studied the entire Quran cover to cover. So what do we learn from this? The importance of focusing on the entire book, not just parts of it. In study, in recitation, as well as in implementation. And also in da'wah.